Please welcome Dale Brown.
Hello, everyone. I really appreciate you being here today. I'm Dale Brown. I've got a couple of jobs here at HPE. I'm the worldwide growth leader for AI solutions at HPE. I'm also responsible for the HPE-NVIDIA relationship globally. So I have a couple of different interests in the conversation here today. And I've spent the last decade working with enterprise and public sector customers and helping them achieve AI outcomes. So before we had generative AI and agentic AI and all those cool things, I've been doing that for a while. And so I'm really passionate about this topic, and I'm really thankful that you guys are here. So here's the thing. We're not going to talk about theory today. We're going to talk about real-world things for you to avoid pitfalls and for you to actually navigate and how you can actually win and get AI outcomes. So it's about traction, because it's execution time for most of us, because our competitors are out there doing things with AI, and your board of directors, for all of you in leadership positions, you know they're all very, very interested. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's working, what's not. We're going to talk about how you scale AI inside of your organization strategically, securely, and fast. So first up, let's talk about the rundown here, is we have Joey Zwicker, and he's one of my colleagues here at HPE, and he's going to walk us through about what is your real AI advantage. And the dirty secret is, it's not about building infrastructure. It's about what sets you apart, and how can you actually achieve that. He's got some great insights there. And then we're going to have Rahm, Kosla, and Dan Wabel up, respectively our CIO and our CDO, Chief Data Officer. And they are going to talk about how they've actually built AI applications inside of HPE as a multinational firm with all of the puts and takes and what they've learned and, frankly, how it's helped shape our products. So we're in a new era, right? You know that. I don't need to go through that with you. You've heard that so many times you're nauseated. But the reality is that AI holds a great promise, but getting there can be difficult. There can be lots of friction. There are real challenges that have to be confronted along the way. Architecture, governance, and execution are just a couple of those areas. So let's dive in. Please help me welcome Joey Zwicker. He's our VP and GM of AI Solutions for Private Cloud AI. Thank you, Joey. I appreciate you being here with me.
No problem. Thanks, Dale.
So when you think about the topic of AI, like, what are the biggest headwinds that you see enterprises are facing today?
So I think with a lot of the customers I work with today, it's not a question of should we be doing AI, right? At that point, we're past that point. It's about right-sizing the specific solutions and outcomes for my specific business. And there are really two big headwinds that I tend to see here. One is around deciding how to identify exactly what those real challenges and use cases tend to look like. Specifically, am I trying to get outcomes of internal efficiency, right? Am I trying to make my software development teams more productive, or my customer success teams more effective, drive different business processes, versus are my outcomes really focused on new product capabilities, external capabilities and use cases for my end customers. And depending on the answers to those questions, you're now focused very heavily around, well, where do I need to customize things for my business and really put my engineering power behind it, versus where instead should I be focusing on trying to use standard templates and interfaces for internal efficiency that apply to all enterprises and use cases there. The second big headwind is around deciding how do I keep up with the ever-changing state of the AI use case. And so we see, as Dale said, moving from machine learning to deep learning to generative AI over the last few years, and now everybody's talking about agentic AI. And the framework that we see there is that the transition from generative AI over now into agentic is really just about breaking down these large, monolithic, custom-built AI apps for use case A and B and C, and transitioning that into a bunch of small AI-driven microservices. These things become reusable, these things become modular, and it allows you to now focus your customization work only on individual specific places where that's actually unique to your business.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, how does HP help companies achieve those outcomes, particularly?
Yeah, so So that's really where our private cloud for AI was built as a turnkey solution, is that we see many of these problems, particularly in the internal efficiency and productivity use cases, which are applicable widely across any industry, any company. Those are areas where those workflows and those microservices are actually all very much the same. And so that's where Private Cloud AI is built in with all kind of the standard tools and libraries and frameworks and templates and blueprints that you might have to make that really getting started and easy. And then you can scale into the full-blown kind of custom AI factories for more complicated use cases as your business and needs kind of get there.
Great. And I just had a customer today talk to me exactly, almost word for word, what you said about how we've given them a framework to rapidly prototype.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, can you continue on a little bit more about what are the do's and don'ts for a customer? Like, what is it that they should not do, and what should they make sure that they do?
Yeah. So me and my team spend, I don't know, hundreds now of different implementations across, exascale use cases, big training use cases, all the way down to now, internal productivity use cases all the time. There's a few different do's and don'ts. I think one of the first things is, again, as we said earlier, identifying those key use cases, right? Understanding what use cases are going to be, what outcomes you're looking for your business, and just being very honest and concrete with, all right, let's crawl, then walk, then run as we build through those pieces. The second one is there are limited engineering resources and efforts available within any organization to implement these. And so focus on putting your engineering effort and build versus the areas that are very unique and special to your business. Every legal department in every organization is looking for the ability to leverage generative AI and agentic workflows to help them review contracts and legal docs.
Sure.
Every organization that has a customer support department is looking for these are the kind of the standard pieces versus now your very specific ones where, okay, we're gonna need to customize this piece. And this allows you to build for repeatability, scalability, and focus based on your industry and use case, well, where do I need to have specialized governance? Where do I need specialized guardrails built in there for you to specifically be able to do that? So those are some of the big areas to focus on. The things to avoid is over-engineering these large monolithic AI apps. And one of the things that I see all the time is, we've probably all heard, all these pilots have trouble getting to production. I actually see lots of apps that get to production. But by the time they get there after a few quarters, you're in a situation where now the newest models are available and there's a new set of blueprints and tools and workflows. And so keeping up with that by keeping things modular and keeping things reusable into small bite-sized pieces, that's actually how you keep up with that constant change. And that's where Private Cloud AI and HPE's services and AI factory capabilities allow you to repeatedly use all of those components and stay updated automatically as new models come out every single month.
And so when you think about that and just to punctuate it sort of completely, from here when they leave, right? From the plan forward, they should do one thing and they should not do one thing. Let's just summarize it.
Customize only the areas that are truly unique for your driving core business. And a lot of the baseline AI and agentic workflows, there are a whole bunch of standard templates or blueprints that are coming out for those things. They're just so repeatable and it's moving so quickly. So focus on only custom development in those key areas.
Yes.
And I think the don't is kind of the opposite side of that. The opposite side of that is don't chase kind of the shiny objects and newest things immediately as they come out.
100%.
Focus on solving your outcome and working backwards to right-size that need for your business.
100%. Well, I guess we're going to leave it there.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming and spending time. And we're happy to help you. Anyone at HP, we can talk about additional details. Thank you, Joey.
My pleasure.
And now we welcome up Rahm Kosla, CIO of HPE, and Dan Wabel, Chief Data Officer of HPE. Good to meet you. Good to see you on stage here. Thank you so much for coming today. So you heard us talk about private cloud AI with Joey, and talk about the do's and don'ts. Your view on this as a real practitioner of a multinational firm with all of the puts and takes. Tell us a little bit about how you approach the mission of all of that and the construct of achieving outcomes.
Yeah, so first off, one of the things that's interesting for us, I've been with HP for 2 years now, and I actually was sitting in your seats many years ago, or a few years ago, as a CIO for the business, and really in either consumer products or retail. So the challenges that I'm seeing at HP as a CIO is actually the same similar challenges that we have. We have a high demand for new skills, new requirements, and we have to be able to pivot our skills, our capabilities to what really is going to make a difference. And I would say, for me, for what we were starting to do a couple of years ago is that demand had to first drive a roadmap. We had to build a roadmap that we understood could scale. If we're building it just for the purpose of meeting some requirement, we'd have a dead end scenario. And I do think we'll talk a little bit about what that looked like. But for us, we needed to build scale. We needed to bring our teams along. And Joey mentioned it. There's a process here where there's such demand, but if you always have it externally and not build it internally, both the business and IT, you will
100%.
always kind of have this need to get reference reviews from externals. And the last thing is there's a decisions you'll have to make on spend. And spend is all about, you have technical debt, you'll have new capabilities, and you'll have this AI capability. And how much of your discretionary spend will be moved there? And will you actually have the big bets, the big outcomes that can achieve what your business is looking for?
That's sage advice. Thoughts, Dan?
Awesome. What was the question?
Oh, the friction that you see, how are you navigating?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a number of challenges, as Rahm mentioned. I would say our partnership with our product team is fantastic. As customer zero, or as Rahm would like to say, customer gold, right? We're working with the product team to improve the product. Private Cloud AI, we were one of the first customers, maybe the first customer to start using this product. And working closely with the team, we helped drive the roadmap, and the product has come a long way in 1 year. And we built a platform called ChatHPE that we use internally at HP. And you could probably guess from the name, it's similar to ChatGPT. There's a chat UI, but it's more than a chat UI. It's actually a whole set of APIs. We have a set of custom guardrails that we built, and it runs completely securely and separately. So all of our data does not contribute back to the public model. Right. And that's very, very important for us. And what we learned, though, through that experience over the last 2 years is that as you pilot and you start to build POCs around use cases, you have a limited set of data. But as you're starting to scale and think about process transformation, the reality is there's a tremendous amount of data out there. Right. Over 80%, on average, over 80% of customers' data or your data is not in the cloud right now. So if we need to provide context to these powerful models, are we really going to move all of our data, in our case, tens of millions of documents, to the cloud? No, we're not going to do that, right? What we're going to do is scale on PCAI internally, because that's where our data resides right now. Let's bring the AI to the data and not try to bring millions of files to the AI.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a logical transition.
So how did Private Cloud AI help you?
So PCAI has been incredibly helpful in a number of different ways. I think first and foremost, the security side of things, right? So we have data that is highly sensitive, and we don't necessarily want to move that data to the cloud. The other piece is, as we're starting to scale, so we have 60,000 employees at HPE, and scaling in the public cloud becomes cost prohibitive at some point. Right. So it's very, very important for us to keep an eye on costs, and like Rahm mentioned, you make decisions around costs every day, right? And as you think about the agentic era, and Joey was just talking about this, the scale is going to explode in agentic. So if you think ahead and if you lean forward, the reality is it's going to be a hybrid world. We're not going to live 100% in the cloud as it comes to AI. Models are going to commoditize. We're going to be able to move them on-prem, and PCAI is a fixed cost. So anyway, very exciting times, and PCAI has been very, very helpful for us, especially as we start to scale our ChatHPE platform.
Yeah, I just want to add, I think one of the things that we're doing here is we have about 60,000 employees, and when we first started, we were looking at, we were putting everything in the cloud, but what we started to realize as well is there was certain use cases we just couldn't do. We just didn't feel comfortable. Yeah. And when PCAI came to as an option, we partnered with our teams, and this is where we consider a unique space for us as an IT organization. Is we went to our product team and said, we'll be the first. Let's move it in. Let's really drive capability. And I think we moved pretty fast. We now have two pathways. We still have we still have the cloud, but we also have PCAIs. And the way you navigate it is through the user interface. And the user interface decides where do they want to move to. And I think that's the best of both worlds.
Absolutely. It's a powerful, we call it our orchestration layer, where we can orchestrate between public cloud and on-prem, and we can use different models for different use cases dynamically. So it's become, I think, a very powerful solution. And you could just look at the interactions on ChatHPE internally, and you can just see the growth, right?
Right.
I mean, every month we're doubling the number of interactions over the last 8 months straight. So you could see it's just hockey puck growth.
As a side note, people come to me and they talk about how they use ChatHPE, and it's not just for summarizing emails anymore. Right. People are really digging in, so you guys have done a great job. So, Dan, there's been a lot of chat about Agentic AI, even here today, and all of our audience is hearing about this. So can you break down what you see Agentic doing when it talks about driving scale and what the future holds?
Absolutely. So I think what's going to be interesting with Agentic is it's going to be an absolute explosion. Right. I think in terms of interactions and use and what we call tokens, right, in the AI world. And to scale on the cloud, keep in mind, as you leverage the platform or the tools more and more, the costs are going to go this way. If you think about PCAI, it's actually the inverse.
Right.
You make an investment, and then as Agentic is going to explode, you gain economies of scale as you use the platform more. So it's actually setting you up for the future, leaning into the true hybrid world. So we're excited about that. We have many use cases. One of them that I think is very powerful is called SDR. It's an AI sales development representative. And what this application does is it runs on the APIs that are running on ChatHPE, and it allows salespeople to automate preparation for all the activities they have before they go to meet with a customer. So you think of our sales folks, and you probably all have sales folks, they're spending 30, 40, sometimes 50% of their time preparing for customer meetings. Imagine if you could automate that process in a dynamic way with an agentic application that could gather all of the data and information you need about a customer, pre-build presentations, and now your salespeople can spend more time with the customer and less time preparing for the meetings. This is a real use case we've built on ChatHPE running on PCAI. Very, very, very powerful.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, I can speak from a seller's point of view for sure. And the reality is we all want to focus on how we're delivering value to the customer, not how we're the rote and verse of every last detail. So something that serves it up, that this tool is fantastic for us. So Rahm, I want to back to you a little bit here. So we talked about the challenges along the journey to implementing AI. So within HPE and building this out for our customers, let's talk about the wins. And how do those wins inform what the future holds?
Yeah, so the good news is, I always think of wins as, is there a higher demand for the services? And I think you all receive this when you're doing annual planning. The demands are just increasing to the point where I actually trying to figure out how do we achieve all these demands to actually drive it. Now, one thing that we talk through is with our infrastructure team, we got to plan the space, we got to plan the power, we got to plan the integration with the data as well as with the ecosystem of applications out there. And so as the speed of demand comes through, we on IT have to really prepare and plan for how do we engage with the other AI platforms that might be out there as it ties to the SaaS software. How do we enable all the data that's in pockets that we need to make sure it's secure, but still we're able to leverage? And then how do we make sure that the demands and investments that are there are truly the right ROI investments? Because not everything, not everything that's out there as a demand may actually be the best investment. So I think that's really an important part of just, we know that demand is there, but do it in the right way that we're actually going to accelerate the business.
Yeah. What also I appreciate so much is you guys acted as customer zero for private cloud AI. Yeah. So all of the things that you folks heard here is the intelligence that worked with the business unit folks in actually building the product. And so these have been great partners to us, and our customers thank us every day when we expose you, and because you talk about real world examples. But so Dan, I think you've got a session coming up, right? That you should chat a little bit about.
We do, yeah. It's actually just following this session. I think it's in about a half hour after this unit. It's called the Enterprise AI Playbook. In that session, today in this this particular setting here, we're talking about building the foundation critically important.
Right.
But really, if you think about an AI program, there's multiple pieces. There's your governance and strategy, there's your technical foundation, and then there's also all the business use cases.
Yes.
So in this upcoming session called the Enterprise AI Playbook, we're going to walk through each one of those segments and kind of help everyone understand what the lessons we've learned in building our AI program over the last 2 or 3 years and really leaning into it.
So let's talk about measurement, because this I get asked a lot. Practitioners are saying, how should we measure success? How do you guys think about that?
Okay, Rahm.
I mean, for me, the way I think of measurement is, I always think about the return on investment. I know that's not always the perfect measurement, but that is a measurement that we have because there isn't as much dollars available to do everything. And so the piece that I always consider is like, what is the value we're trying to drive? Is it enabling our sales team? Is it enabling our back office? And ultimately, what is that actually generating for the business? And,
Sure.
And to me, the technical foundation piece is important because you also need to make sure that what you're not doing is going back to finance, going back to executives say we didn't build it right.
Right.
We now have to rebuild it again. That would not be a good scenario. So really think for the future, build for the future, but make sure you're getting value along the way.
Love it.
A little teaser for the AI Playbook session, but as you think about business use cases, you need to be able to measure productivity through business processes. And really what I think you need to do is think about the KPIs.
Yeah.
What KPIs are you using right now to measure your process? Use that as a baseline, and then experiment and learn, leveraging this new technology and these new platforms so that you can simplify processes, accelerate processes, supercharge. That's what's happening right now with some of the use cases that we've rolled out just in the last 6 or 12 months.
Got it. So let's talk about key learnings then, because as you've done that, you've learned some things, right?
Yes. So I'd say 3 key learnings or focus areas. One is the foundational work. So we spent some time talking about that, but that includes not just the AI platform, but of course your data strategy, both on the structured side and on the unstructured side. And I will say, I think enterprise knowledge management, unstructured data governance, whatever you want to call it, that is a critical area that I think most organizations, including ours, we're starting to focus on this, and that's your tremendous benefits from focusing on how do you manage all these documents, the life cycle of knowledge. The second is be strategic.
Yeah.
Yep. When it comes to getting out of pilot phase, you want to deliver on value and transformational goals, and then active users are 25% of the population driving demand, but you want to transform, you must educate and upskill your workforce. And I think we spent a lot of time talking about that in circles, but I think what's most important is not just technical upskilling, it's also building an AI-first mindset, which is a different way to think about problems.
Exactly.
Let's see here. Oh, well, I guess we're at the end of our session here.
We are, okay.
So,
Right.
so thank you, Dan. Those are excellent points. I really appreciate both of you, gentlemen, and your time here today.
Thank you.
Please show some appreciation
Thank you.
for Rahm and Dan particularly.
Thank you so much.
So much.
Thanks, Dale.
Thank you so much. And now for our next portion, I'm going to turn this over to Sherry Williams. She's our SVP and GM for Private Cloud and Flex Solutions. And she's got a couple of really important guests here talking about real world examples. We've got Vijay coming from the state of Nebraska and the Chief Data Officer. And we also have Arjit, who is the founder of Able, one of our Unleash AI partners. So please help me welcome them to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with us this afternoon. The lights are incredibly bright, but show of hands, how many have actually created an agent? Anybody in the audience? We have a few hands go up. How many would like to be able to create an agent? Yeah? Well, today we're going to tell a little story, actually not a story, we're going to share a real life example of an event that's going to happen in August in the state of Nebraska, where they are going to create 100 agents in...
The plan is in 1 day, but we are hoping for 1 hour.
In 1 hour. So that's the goal that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how we're going to get there and how the journey of getting there. I actually think this is, I've talked to a lot of different customers with private cloud AI, and I think this is one of the most interesting use cases that I hope you enjoy hearing the story on. It's all about having the right partners, the right platform, and kind of the right mindset and a right approach to saying, we're going to just get in and do it. My goal for you today in this session, for this part of this session, is for you to leave here thinking, we can do this too, and want to explore the art of the possible, okay? So let's start with you, Arjit. And you're part of the ABLE organization. You are part of our AI Unleashed program, right? You have been an incredible partner, so thank you for that. Just to get started, can you share kind of what sets your approach apart and why it works so well with private cloud AI?
Right. Our motto was always this idea of I am able. Basically what we said is AI made by the few for the many is actually quite disempowering. We have to make it possible for all of us to make our own AI and our own AI agents. Because if you think about what our enterprises need, we'll need thousands, if not millions of agents. Every enterprise will. And you're not going to make them one by one through experts. We have to empower the business user to do it. And that's where we started from. And we had done some very interesting work with the state of Nebraska around that. And we'll talk about that in a second. But when I was telling Vijay about what we are doing, as a typical CDO, he immediately said, what about my data governance? You're going to let a bunch of people run around and build stuff? And his next question was, what about my cloud costs? Like, how much will be my bill if I let 1,000 people build agents? And this is where PCAI became a perfect partner for us, right? So if you think about the way I think of PCAI, and hopefully I don't get anything wrong, you like roll this huge appliance in, looks like a big refrigerator if you haven't seen it outside. You roll it in. That is the enclosure in which your data is being, your AI is being secured, right? So even though all these business users are playing around with the data, building the agents, it's working in a very safe environment. And secondly, you're paying for that per year or whatever structure you've set up. You're not paying by the consumption, you're not paying by the user, which means the cost is predictable. So Vijay got me started on this journey where we found PCAI. Want to add anything to that, Vijay? Did I represent your comments correctly?
Absolutely, you did. You did.
So Vijay, you are the first chief data officer in a state in the United States, is that correct?
No, for the state of Nebraska.
For the state of Nebraska,
yes.
Okay. I'm sure that's an incredible opportunity that you're going to share with us, but also a fair amount of pressure.
It is.
Right? So what gave you the confidence to jump in, move fast, and get going?
Well, Sherry, thank you for having me. As a CDO as the first CDO for the state of Nebraska, there were multiple challenges that I had to face with. One, we have a lot of data, and I have to move fast. I have no budget. Governor Pillen passed a law saying that data has to stay. The state of Nebraska's data has to stay in the state. So we were looking for options. What should we do? Data sovereignty was very important for us. Data security was very important for us. And cost was a concern for us. Yes, I can move my data to the cloud. How am I going to solve that in the agentic world when I'm going to give or allow the people to go and build agents? It's going to be expensive for me to manage that. So having HPE provide this private cloud opportunity is going to allow me to set a fixed cost, at least initially, for the proof of concept so that I can scale up. And having Able partnering with us on the software side, we are pretty much an AI use case driven business. So we're asking for use cases that allows Able to help us model that. In fact, they modeled us every use case that they have attempted to do within 48 hours. And then we were able to latch on to that and then provide solutions to that. So that was very critical for us. So those were the reasons why we had to go through that.
48 hours is amazing.
That is correct.
Very amazing. So what we're going to talk about today is how they're using AI to actually predict illness in livestock. So I'll share a little personal side. I grew up in Minnesota, close to Nebraska, and my grandparents were farmers. I spent a lot of time on the farm when I was growing up, including taking the slops out to the pigs and feeding them after dinner. And pigs can actually be quite aggressive, and they bite tails and they do all kinds of things. Never, when I was a young girl, did I understand that that actually could be a predictor of illness. So can you share with us what you're doing here and how you evolved?
Of course. So as I was exploring use cases, Department of Agriculture came to me asking for, can we solve a problem, CDO? Here's a problem that we have. How can you enable farmers predict cattle or farm animals sickness ahead of time? Because in a farming world, when one animal gets sick, it is important that we predict and isolate that ahead of time before the entire community of the cattle gets destroyed. It's a lot of cost that is at the expense of the farmer. So that's very critical. And similarly, for plantation, for the farmers, they also, it's easy to predict because of the coloration of the discoloration of the fields. So the question is, how do we help enable these farmers be predictive and still not to hire data scientists to do their job? However, we just found out before coming to us, they had asked data scientists to come up with a solution. Obviously, yes, they came up with a robotic solution that will go around, scooper pooper, get all that information, and then they will try to test that process and imagine the time it took and the money that they spent on those robots. And imagine in a farm, it's not a clean environment. They have to take care of the equipment as well. So that is when they came to us. That's not going to work. That's not going to scale. So what can you do? So we actually turned that question back to Urjit and say, Abel, what can you guys do in this space? And that's when we started going to the farmers and understanding what is the behavior of pigs. And that's when we found out pigs bite their tails when they are sick. And then what we did is we gave that use case and we attempted to try some of those things. So biting can be different things. Is it affectionately biting each other? Is it aggressive or playing? So we used the images of the pigs and also the behavioral signs of those animals to figure out how we can actually identify sick animals ahead of time. So the farmers doesn't have to do data science work. They can use a common way of sharing what's going on in their barn, in their farms.
And the key thing here was, how do you set them up, empower them? And Vijay, I will correct you on one thing because we'll get into trouble with, they actually never built the robot. They were going to do the robot. Thankfully, some people who understand how farms work put up their hands and said, do not do that. That'd be a terrible idea. But what was good was when we empowered the actual end users, tail biting was one example that came up, but there was also, they squeal in a different way. There was different things. Like they were, the actual people who do the work came up with ideas that we would have never thought of. And that is my key part of it. Like, don't get obsessed with one use case or the other. It is when you empower the end users who actually understand what they're doing extremely well, and you give them a very easy way to provide feedback. In Able, what we do is, it would come up with the image and the software would say, this is why we think this is the case you're looking for. So it gives you the reasons. And then as a human, you can go and put a thumbs down on something and say, no, this is wrong. Like, there was one image where a rope looked like a tail. So all you did is you went in and put down the thumbs down and said, that's a rope, not a tail. And now the AI learns from it. So what the focus has to be on is how do you empower the end user to be able to correct the AI, and how do you set up the AI to explain itself to the human? Think of it as how do we do feedback today? You take an AI and you say, good job, bad job. That's not very useful feedback, right? Think of a young kid. If they get exam wrong, you want to tell them, hey, you got the calculation of margin wrong, or your answer was too long, or you got the spelling wrong. That's what we are doing, empowering the farmers, the end users, to provide useful feedback on the reasoning steps of the AI so that the AI can learn and adjust very quickly. That's how we solve the problem.
So you haven't actually used this word yet, but you are training the model. The users are training the model. The users are interns, administrators, not data scientists. So can you talk a little bit more about that training aspect of what you're doing here?
Absolutely, and there's two parts to it. Training the interns themselves, the employees themselves, and we'll come to that in 1 second. The other part is, this is called post-training. You're not doing fundamental retraining of the AI, that would be too expensive. But what we did is, when the user provides feedback, we immediately adjust the AI. Once you get about 100 examples, you actually do post-training on that AI to specialize it to what's being done. And that kind of an iterative loop very quickly makes the AI specific to the task you're trying to do. And that's what we enabled end users to do. Now, the flip side of it was training the end users. So last Friday, we were testing this out for the August 19th exercise. We went to the state of Nebraska, and Vijay got a bunch of his interns and some of his agency stuff. And then Vijay and his CIO, Matt McCarville, was also there. And we were supposed to do a 30-minute training of the employees. And instead, we said, well, why don't you guys all do it? So Vijay and Matt got roped into doing the training themselves. And you want to talk about what happened there?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was amazing when we brought in the interns and some of the employees who volunteered. They were excited about this thing. The first thing we told them is you don't have to have AI experience or programming experience. Obviously, you come fresh, we'll train you how to use this tool. And then I had already prepared some 700 data sets from public, from the DHHS space and so on and so forth, to prepare for this thing. And that's about all we have done. We didn't know what we were building. So we wanted to build agentic AIs, and we wanted to see how many agents can each of these individuals can fire and bring it up into productionalizing this and training this. That was our ultimate goal. As we were talking, Arjit and his team said, you know what, if the interns and employees are doing, I want the CIO and CDO also to be building agents. We did not expect that to happen. So we were put on the spot we went through the 30-minute training, and obviously, yes, we all played with it. I think the funny thing that came out of that is after an hour or so of exploring the product and getting used to it, the juices started flowing. And the interns were excited about how they were using, and they started asking questions that we didn't even think about. So I think that's the idea behind this. Rather than investing on a data scientist to build a model, go with agentic solutions, isolated cases, and let the juice flow and allow the interns to explore what they can build for us. I think that was the key message. There's another funny thing that happened is there was a template that we were trying to use to go after the HR policies. So we were just using what is the FMLA look like for us, and it obviously said this was a policy for the Fed, and here's all the data. There's nothing specific to the state, which was fine. My CIO got excited, and he actually inputted the public HR policy file for the state of Nebraska, started asking questions. We didn't know if his model was going to handle this. There's a lot of fake AI outside. So we wanted to really prove if this is actually responding to the state of Nebraska policies, and it did. And that was the amazing part. So it clearly proved to us this works with the data that we provide, and in a contained environment, and in a secure environment, we can explore and do more things.
And if I may give you my spin of what happened there, so we had just convinced the CIO to take the training. And the idea was we would train them on 3 agents. One would be unstructured, one would be structured, one would be an image one, so they got a sense, and they would then build their agents. And on the second of these, like 10 minutes into the training, we realized that the CIO had gone off of the reservation, and he's building his own agents right there in front of us. And you can imagine, it's on one hand, it's a little scary because you're literally 10 minutes into the training. But the flip side of it is when people feel comfortable trying things, and then, by the way, CIO continued trying to break the pig biting thing. He started putting in like pictures of wild hogs. Then he went to a cartoon character. Like he was doing everything to break the agent. But that is what you want. AI is not magic. It will fail. But give people that confidence to try things and adjust things and provide feedback. That is how you're going to solve this problem at scale, not being scared of it.
Absolutely.
I think that's an incredible insight and very important for, I think, everybody in the audience to understand. When we think about the interns and the non-data scientists getting involved, and the light bulb goes off, and there's sort of the, what can we do here? The curiosity, the art of the possible. How do you see that actually evolving in general beyond this event into how you manage data and use cases going forward in the state of Nebraska?
Well, from a workforce standpoint, it is important that the new generation understands and we understand what their needs are. They want things faster and quicker. They don't want to wait for a governance or a policy to be in place. Obviously, yes, we have some AI guardrails within which we work. But when they come into play, they want fun things, and this is exciting for them. So how else can I motivate them to apply their data science in the field, in the public sector? One of the things, there is this thought process that interns usually think government is not a place that they wanted to work for because they pay less and it's going to be a lot of politics that they have to deal with. How can we fix this? We actually opened up an office in Omaha, which is 1 hour away, closer to the schools, and we started soliciting individuals to come and participate and work with us. And our CIO has also put in a plan where we actually pay for them for the higher education. And that's an amazing entry point for them to learn. And then my return on investment, if they stay around for at least 2 years and build like thousands of agents for me, these tiny agents can build a cost for what I wanted to go. So I think this is a great, I don't think it's an accomplishment yet, but this is a strategy that we are planning to implement in the state of Nebraska. And I've been sharing this with the other states as well in the CIO and the CDO conferences.
That's wonderful. I'd love to see the engagement of the younger folks in the process.
And if you think about what he did in that in the project we did, by setting up that walled garden, right? And then within 48 hours, the interns found those 700 documents, right? And this is just 3 interns. So it is not hard. Like if you want to get 1,000 shots at target, it's not that hard. And then what you start thinking is, okay, I've made 1,000 agents. How many of them are creating real value? Okay, let's take the top 10, top 20, and you're going to be able to take that to production, take it to scale. What you're doing is you're reversing the path. We have been thinking about agents as if we were thinking of enterprise software solutions, right? So plan, choose a good use case, do a lot of thinking, then build it. You want to flip it around. You want to think more like the internet, more like social media. How do we turn every consumer into a creator? And then you need to have the governance. You need to have the cost control. That's where thinking ahead and setting up the right environment is key, and thus the PCAI story.
Absolutely. So another thing you mentioned is that the governor passed a law that all the data needs to be local.
That is correct.
So can you talk a little bit about what that means in terms of where your data sits today, where your data needs to be, and how does private cloud AI actually help you with the data requirements?
So data sovereignty is key, and that was the law that was passed. For the state of Nebraska, all the data has to reside in Nebraska. So we have both the private clouds and public clouds, and we did not know how to go about doing this. And that's where HPE, with the solution of private cloud, allowed us to think along those lines. Yes, we can have this in the office of the CIO, where we can have our farmers, own the data where it belongs and it resides in the same place, allow the AI models that Abel builds us to help train them in order to make their life easier. I think that's key that we wanted to go down this path, and this is where HPE PCII helps in terms of cost control, especially with the private cloud. We will know how to actually charge back. And OCIO in the state of Nebraska, not all states are charged back. We don't have a lot of funding from the legislature that we can apply towards new technology. These are expensive products. How can I still empower my users and still be able to provide something tangible that they can take with them? And your product, HPE's PCII, and Able as a software allows me to do that in a way that I can actually predict some kind of cost that I can request them to pay for.
And the chargeback point, by the way, if you generalize it to CIOs in general, a lot of companies are facing this right now. If I can't predict my budget, how do I set up what my agreement with the rest of the company looks like, right? And this is why we actually, look, the cloud model works beautifully, but it can be extremely unpredictable. And right now, customers are looking for predictability. They want control while getting as much impact as quickly as possible. You have to balance the two. And that's what I think the state of Nebraska is trying to achieve. And one of the things we did, because the governor's law actually said that the farmer owns their data. And what we made sure was all of the fine-tuning data, like that feedback we are talking about, that actually stays in the farmer's control too. It stays in that same server and is not being sent out into the wild to affect the model in general. It's only that private copy of the model that is getting fine-tuned, getting post-trained to be specific to those use cases.
It's fabulous, fabulous. So a little bit off script here. Any thoughts from either of you on the keynote this morning? Any key takeaways that you took that you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a great session about the strategy that they had, and I was more interested in the networking. It is key, for networking. It was key on the initiatives on the security, and then the AI part of it. And obviously, the AI part of it is where my preview of the data comes into place. Enabling, companies like Able to help us as system integrators and partners to help us achieve what we wanted to achieve, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be spending time on technology. That's the hard work that these guys are already doing. Let's make it easier for my business users. Anybody who is in the business should understand how they can use this. They should not know that they're using a chatbot or an AI. They should feel free to open it up and should not be scared to apply some of those questions and should not think that they're being watched or monitored. And that's where the free-flowing juice of their creativity comes into play. And it is very important for where we need to head towards the future. These kind of things are very critical for us to go. So yes, it was. I think HPE has done an incredible job looking forward. And I think we want to be a part of this journey with you guys. And I wanted to say the state of Nebraska has to participate as the first state to participate in these kind of endeavors and take this journey and tell this story to the rest of the states.
Would be great. Love it.
So there was one point at the keynote I was genuinely actually messaging one of your teammates. When you guys started talking about the MCP protocol and how we can actually access all of your storage capabilities through MCP, I was sending a message to my CIO and I was sending a message to your teammates. I was like, when can I get my hands on this? Because we already have an agentic platform. If I can unlock all of the value of the data automatically, essentially the data just becomes a tool that the agent can call. And so I'm very excited about that. The other part, which I knew about before, is your collaboration with NVIDIA. Because one of the things that our customers are asking for is give me a complete end-to-end thought-through tested solution. And we work very closely with NVIDIA. For example, at GTC, we highlighted how we benchmarked on the Grace Hopper, showing how the converged architecture actually makes agents much more efficient. 3 to 5 times more efficient. And seeing kind of HP collaborate closely with NVIDIA, us collaborating closely with NVIDIA, means that the solutions that are getting built actually have been thought through end to end, from the user interface all the way to the hardware. And that's what customers need in this rapidly changing environment.
I love it, absolutely love it. So each of you, kind of one soundbite for the audience, your advice, your recommendation for teams to get going, to get started. One piece of advice you'd like to share? Start with you.
Yeah, one thing I would say is don't be scared like we were initially until I had that conversation with Arjit. So it is important, it is scary, but it's okay to do this in a closed box. Allow in our case, allow the agencies to come and play in our sandbox or in the HPE platform. Allow them to use these tools. Let them make mistakes, it's okay. And then we can decide, okay, they build thousands and thousands of agents, then they will understand how these agents can work together, and then we can productionalize, and then we can talk about how we can actually scale this up. So don't be afraid to allow your folks, your business people, give them the opportunity to explore. Don't tell them this is what we wanted to do. Obviously, give them the direction, the guardrails, allow them to expand on their creativity. There's a lot of creative people out there that shy away from wanting to explore. Like myself, the CDO and the CIO, we were not planning on participating until they actually pushed us through this.
So this is going to sound weird, but don't listen to the experts. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this. Recently had a customer come to me. They found $12 million of value for a use case, which I had initially thought was the stupidest possible use case. I just did not think it was, firstly, I did not think it was possible. I didn't think it made sense. I was like, what are you doing? But I was like, our ethos is the customer should try to experiment and then we'll see. But anybody, if you had bet me, I would have said maybe they'll find like 100K of value. 12 million, never. But the point was, I don't know that customer's business. Their users do. This is the fundamental problem. I might be an expert in AI. By the way, I taught the first AI course in the MBA program at the Harvard Business School. Been doing it for a while, wrote a book called AI is a Waste of Money. I am considered an expert in AI. Don't listen to me. Because the only people who understand what's going to create value are the end users, the people who do their jobs for a living. And if you can empower them, if you truly empower them, not try to think in terms of replacing them, if you empower them, they will transform the society we are living in today. We can't do it for them, only the end users can.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to thank both of you for your time today and the really compelling story. Like I said, this for me, talking to a lot of customers, I find this really interesting. I want to point out a couple of things. We have a partner that brought the model or built the model for the customer based on what you're looking for, the outcome you were looking for, enabled it on PCAI. Notice we haven't really talked a lot about private cloud AI, right? Because the whole premise of private cloud AI, the turnkey solution, is it's easy to deploy, easy to use. You don't have to think about the infrastructure. You don't have to worry about it. You can focus on building the model and then getting your users engaged and doing that fine-tuning and inferencing to actually engage the population. And then in doing so, the art of the possible just opens up wide. So thank you so much for that today. I appreciate having you here and for the compelling story.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. So I just want to take a moment to kind of try to bring it all together for you. I didn't get an opportunity to comment on the HPE IT story. Rahm and Dan are great partners of mine on a day-to-day basis, and it's been an incredible journey working with them as customer zero to deploy private cloud AI, to have them bring the Chat HPE onto private cloud AI. I don't think we touched on this in the story, but they actually built it initially in Azure and then brought it on-prem and is running now internally. And it's been just an honor and a privilege to work with them to actually realize that internally and to see them quickly evolving it to add more use cases beyond Chat HPE really solidifies the intent of what we've been trying to do with private cloud AI. And then to have the story today about how the state of Nebraska can leverage this so quickly, so easily, that the end users can actually engage with it and explore the art of the possible there. So I'm so happy to be able to share those stories with you. And I think what I really want you to take away today is also, if you're not sure how to get started or where to get started, I would encourage you to think about what some business outcomes you're interested in. Dan and Rahm talked about that every legal department has zillions of contracts and wants to be able to analyze those. That's a nice starting point. Any place where you're looking at PDFs and things like that where you want to use AI to analyze them. And I think once you can get over that hump of getting started, the light bulbs will go off and things will flow naturally. We have our AI Unleashed program. We have 35-ish ISV partners where they have AI models that we've actually qualified on PCAI. Gives you an opportunity to engage with them and look for the opportunities there. We also have within HPE's catalog 25 or so AI use cases, all different verticals and horizontals that are in the process of being qualified on private cloud AI. You heard this morning from Antonio, the Deloitte and the Accenture. So all total, we have more than 100 different AI models that have been qualified on private cloud AI in some capacity or another. So anything that you want to do, I'm sure that we can engage with you and help you figure out how to get started. And beyond that, I want to thank you for your time today and offer up to you, myself, Dale, HPE, ANPS Services, anything we can do to help you on your journey, we're here to help and wish you all the best. Thank you.